The Trials. Day 3. Alex, Mary, and Chris walked through the brick streets of Salem carrying gift bags, looking around at all the old buildings and having a good time. But that stopped when they reached the Salem Witch Museum. Mary was stunned and silent. On to the witch dungeon with the punishment stocks outside for the tourists to entertain themselves, laughing as their pictures were taken. Chris could never get over how so many people wanted to enjoy themselves, surrounded by such evil acts as the torture and murder of so many innocent people. Then they attended a mock trial at Old Town Hall, as Bridget Bishop was put on trial. When they walked outside, Mary was overcome with emotion and couldn't hold back her tears. Alex put his arm around her.
"Mary, what is it? Tell me."
When I think about all those so-called religious people getting all of it so wrong, so many died and families were destroyed. For what? Tell me, for what? For lies? For hatred? For greed or jealousy? What drove them aside from pure evil taking over their souls? Mary took a deep breath and put her head down. Alex held her hand and waited patiently in case she had more she needed to say. She looked up at Alex and gave a soft smile. "I'm all right now. Want to get some coffee? Is that okay with you?" Chris and Alex nodded their heads. They stopped at a cafe, sipping hot coffee and looking at the tourists. Chris decided it was time to change the mood with one of his funny stories about Salem.
"I can't help but think about stuff my friends and I used to do to all the tourists. A bunch of us would pretend to be from someplace else and get people to pay attention to things that didn't mean anything at all. We'd act like we were searching for something, making up stories about it, saying we read about its history, and then waiting for them to follow us. They usually did. We had them walking all over the city and then say something stupid like we forgot it was in another town instead of Salem." Alex laughed. "Strange what some people will fall for because they think they'll learn something no one else knows, like it's some kind of deep secret only the chosen learn. Too bad they don't apply that to everything else in their lives. They'd be a lot happier."
Mary took a deep breath. "Just like I thought that creep's book would send them searching for their miracles. He reminded me of the Puritans chasing down the townspeople just to watch them suffer."
"Well, the witch house used to be owned by a pastor, Roger Williams. He thought that Native Americans owned the land first and should be paid. The Puritans didn't like that thought at all. He thought that the government and churches should not be connected at all. The Puritans didn't like that idea either and convicted him of heresy and sedition. So their enemies were not just people they accused of witchcraft, but anyone who thought differently than the majority. He proved to be a visionary and ended up being the founder of Rhode Island."
As they walked, Chris thought about how much emotional pain she was still in.
"I was just thinking that that's not the whole story of the trials. People were believing they were doing good things that turned out to be fueled by evil. There was a lot of love, too, that caused a miracle when they stopped persecuting people. Think about how much courage it took for them to go against what everyone else thought. They knew they may be accused of siding with the people they accused of witchcraft, but they did what was right. There was a constable, John Willard, who arrested a lot of the accused, but came to his senses, spoke out against the trials, and even his own family turned against him. Too many people suffered, and then somehow, common sense took over. The trials stopped because people stood up with courage and showed the others the way to find redemption for all the harm they did."
"Thank you, Chris." She hugged him. They walked to the witch trial memorial. Alex walked off looking at the 20 granite benches for the innocent victims of the trials. Chris and Mary joined him. They walked slowly, reading the names and how they were put to death, observing the reverence each one was given so that no one would ever forget what happened to them. Chris pointed to the stone for Reverend George Burroughs.
"Did you know he recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly, but they hung him anyway?"
Alex stood by them.
"No, I didn't know that. I've read a lot about what went on growing up, but it wasn't until I was in college that one of my professors opened my eyes to the other trials around the world. There were thousands put to death. But even then, there were good people of courage speaking out against it and forcing them to stop, too. We can look at it as evil spread around the world, or we can look at it as being more about the goodness in their souls, spread out in much higher numbers.
Mary hugged him and kissed his cheek.
Alex looked at his watch. Mary, we should head back to the hotel and finish packing before dinner.
You're right. Thank you again, Chris.
I hope you have a safe flight and find the one you're looking for. Alex reached out to shake his hand. You know, we could meet for dinner tonight if you'd like to. There is something I want to talk to you about. Sure, but I need to get up early, too. I'm meeting some friends for breakfast. Okay, let's meet around 6 o'clock. Sounds good, I'll be there.
Mary laughed. You're both goofy. Did you forget Chris drove us here? They all laughed. Chris opened the car door for Mary, and she got in the back seat. He was instantly embarrassed because of the mess in the back seat. Fast food wrappers, newspapers, and empty water bottles covered half the seat, and his briefcase was still there too. Mary didn't seem to mind, but he apologized anyway. He wasn't used to having anyone in his car. As he walked to the driver's side, Alex turned around to Mary.
Do you think he'll do it?
Time will tell, but we know he has to, so we'll do whatever it takes to make sure he does. Chris drove home, sitting in his car, looking up at his window, and knowing there was no one waiting for him. Made him sad. He didn't want to be alone after the last couple of days. He decided to head back to the hotel early. He looked at his briefcase poking out of the fast food wrapper trash in the back seat. He decided to bring it with him and walked to the hotel. It contained his past life, filled with clippings of his articles, pictures of assignments, and people he used to know. What he dreaded seeing were pictures of Brenda he knew were there, but he never had the strength to burn them. On that day, knowing she was gone and couldn't hurt him ever again, he thought he just may have summoned up the will to do it. At the bar, he got as usual and asked Ed for a favor.
Can you light the fire pit early? Well, he thought about it. Sure, but why? It's nice out. Are you cold?
Chris shook his head.
No, nothing like that. I just need to get rid of some really bad memories. Okay, just don't burn the place down.
Ed wasn't joking. He knew how many bad memories Chris needed to get rid of. He started the fire, and Chris gulped his drink. He pulled out the pictures one by one. Most of them were his assignments. He piled them neatly, and then found the pictures of Brenda. He remembered the crush he had on her when they were in high school. She never wanted to say more than a couple of words to him, and only when she had to because Bill made her. He remembered the times when she was working at CVS. He remembered Bill's going-away party when he joined the Army. And Chris was going off to college. She still didn't pay him any attention. He remembered his going-away party his mom gave him after he got the job in LA as a reporter. That was the first night she showed any interest in him at all. Suddenly, she wanted to know all the details about his job, where he was going to live, and the traveling he would be doing. He remembered her eyes lighting up when he told her he was moving to LA. She flew out every time he came home between assignments, cut all the clippings of his stories and put them into an album, as if she treasured them. He remembered her long blonde hair, perfect white teeth, perfect makeup, and the scent of her neck. He could hear the sound of her voice when she told him she loved him, and what he felt when he held her. One by one, the pictures brought her back to life as he tossed them into the fire. All the tender moments came back to him, and all the times they made love as soon as they saw each other again. Then he remembered she was the one who asked if he would marry her so she could live in LA and be there waiting for him as soon as he got back home, and lied about being pregnant. He couldn't help himself. She was good at pretending he was all she wanted, until he got her the job at the art gallery. She had a knack for art and absorbed every detail of every piece they were selling. She was also perfect at selling to even the most reluctant buyer. She made a bundle and loved the lifestyle he offered her. What she seemed to love more was seeing him off at the airport. Brenda was the one who wanted the joint checking account and made sure he had a life insurance policy, but didn't get one for her life until he questioned her. The real trouble started when he came home from Afghanistan, seriously wounded. She always had something else to do when he had a doctor's appointment. They had to get a nurse to come and change his dressing because she gagged when she saw the wounds all over his body. They never made love after that. Soon she was taking secret calls, whispering, and running out all of a sudden with one excuse after another. After his body healed, he was assigned to cover entertainment stories until he could travel again. He still needed too much therapy to be covering war zones. He hated it. All the parties and events he covered repulsed him, but he was good at his job no matter what. All the suffering he saw in Afghanistan and Iraq, and then seeing the lifestyles of celebrities treated like role models and heroes being made out of sports stars made him sick. Brenda loved all of it, and the secret phone calls stopped. She was always with him. The problem was he hated it so much that after a few months he asked to be transferred to do investigational work again. As soon as he started to do that, she acted as if she hated him. He drank more and was growing more depressed about living his life. Deadlines were missed, and he was running out of excuses. They hardly talked after that, and when they did, it ended with a shouting match. She started to hit him. He wouldn't hit her back, but just blocked the punches. When she was done, he usually walked out to let her calm down. Afterward, she pretended nothing happened. She was good at acting as if she cared and doing something nice for him, like cooking his favorite meal or mixing his drink. The night before he got fired, she wanted him to go back to reporting on celebrities. She was exceptionally nice to him. When he was taking a shower, she got undressed and got in with him. His wounds were healed, but the scars covered the right side of his body. She looked at them for a few seconds, lowered her head, and got out of the shower. Chris rubbed soap over them and grieved. Brenda was dressed in sweatpants and a t-shirt sitting on the bed. He looked at her and said how much he regretted surviving the bomb. He also told her that going back to reporting on celebrities was never going to happen. He wasn't going to sell his soul out again, for her or anyone. With all her pictures turning to ashes, he watched the burning embers float away and wiped his face. He hadn't noticed he had been crying that whole time. He walked back into the bar. Alex and Mary were just sitting down. They saw how much pain he was in. Alex recognized what kind of pain that was and the cause of it.
"Chris, are you okay?" "Yeah, just trying to get rid of some bad memories. Let's head over to the table."
"Sure." They sat at a table in the corner, and the waitress brought Chris as usual and asked what Alex and Mary wanted. Alex ordered a bottle of champagne.
"Tonight may be a good night to celebrate." "And what are you two celebrating? Did you find an author?"
Alex smiled.
"Tingling with possibilities. We may have." "That's great. Who did you find?"
"You."
"Me? I don't know anything about being an inspiration to anyone. Look at me. My life's a catastrophe."
Mary smiled. "Alex and I were thinking about the story you told us about Mandy. We also thought about how you look at people differently than we did. We prayed on it and would like to offer you a chance to write about her."
Mary is right. There are so many people struggling with spiritual pain and PTSD from all different causes. They think God did it to them instead of God saving them for a reason. They waste the chance to live full lives as survivors and healers helping others. If Mandy is for real, she has the power to heal millions.
Chris put his glasses on top of his head and rubbed his face, trying to find an excuse to get out of what he didn't want to do.
"I can't do it right now. I don't have the money for the trip, hotel, or whatever else it will cost to try to find her. It could take days or weeks. Plus, what if she isn't supposed to meet me? The way it is supposed to work is God puts us together. I may be able to do it in a couple of weeks. I have to fly out to LA to clear up something, but I can't even do that right now. I'll be able to in a month or so if everything goes okay. Can you wait?
Alex raised his eyebrows.
Maybe this is the first step in doing just that. I'll make a deal with you. We'll cover your flight to LA and anything else you need, so you can do what you need to do sooner. Then you can head up there and I'll help you out if you need it. Get me a good, true story and a draft with 5,000 words, and we'll give you a contract. I appreciate how you think I'm talented and everything, but I went to church long enough to know that what I think about all of it isn't something that would ever be preached in any of them. People that go to church will hate what I write.
Mary smiled. Well, at least they can't put you on trial for witchcraft like they did Reverend George Burroughs. Just goes to show that no matter what the truth is, some people will never believe it. That doesn't mean we're supposed to stop telling it.
Alex added, but you have to remember the majority of people all over the world don't attend services at all, but they need to know they can go directly to God on their own. One of our favorite books we published was about the difference between religious and spiritual people. While some religious people are also spiritual, the pure, unaffiliated spiritual people are something like 27% of the country. Younger people started turning away from churches a long time ago, and they need support too. You know, as we did. Sure, we got lucky and heard a great preacher, but he was not part of an organized church body. He preached outside and spoke from his soul. Even a lot of Christians that attend church consider themselves to be spiritual too. I can see that. I guess I did the same thing. When I left for LA, that was the last time I attended my church. I walked away from it, but I didn't walk away from God until my life went to hell. Now I'm just confused. So you know how the others feel. They are being told if they don't go to church, they are not Christian, and other people are telling them that they're going to go to hell. They don't know how much love and power are in Scripture because churches preach what they want people to hear and think the way they want them to think. You can show them the way by decoding the meaning behind Scripture. Somehow, when we were praying on it, we felt a sense of urgency come over us. There's no time to wait.
The waitress brought the bottle of champagne and glasses.
So tell me, Chris, do I send back the champagne or pop the cork?
Chris was trying to understand what just happened. He got the same feeling of urgency coming over him.
Pop the cork. You got a deal.
When Chris got back to his apartment, there was a message on his machine.
Hi, it's Bill. You didn't give me your cell phone number, bonehead. Glad to see you still have a landline, old man, so I could look it up. Anyway, I got a hold of Brenda's lawyer. He said he can put everything together for you tomorrow and can meet you in his office Tuesday. I'll give you all the info at my parents' house when we meet for breakfast. You better be there because my mom's making cinnamon buns just for you.
Chris stood there in shock, wondering what the hell just happened in his life.